Welcome on board your night flight to a relaxed tomorrow full of new chances and doors opening for you. For now, just sit back, fasten nothing, and let go of the day behind you as night is gently approaching. Find a comfortable position and just follow my voice. Aviation is a very fascinating topic, and for today, let's focus on one airplane with a lot of history. Tonight, we're stepping into a story that feels as big as the sky itself. A story with runway lights stretching forward into darkness, with a deep, patient engine hum beneath everything, and with a shape so iconic that even people who don't follow aviation can recognize it instantly. The Boeing 747, the queen of the skies. And as we drift together through this gentle documentary, you don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to keep up. Just let each fact land softly, like a wheel touching down, and then let it roll away behind you, because this isn't a test. It's a journey. Part 1. Origins, Design Choices, and the First Era of the Queen Facts 134. There's something quietly miraculous about how a giant begins, not with a roar, but with planning, with drawings, with questions, with the stubborn human belief that something bigger can be made, and made to fly. Fact 1. The Boeing 747 first flew on February 9, 1969. Picture that day, a prototype lifting off at Payne Field, and the air around it changing forever. Fact 2. The 747 entered commercial service with Pan Am on January 22, 1970. A new era arrived almost immediately. Suddenly, flying felt like it could become a world-scale habit. Fact 3. The 747 program ran in production from 1968 to 2023. That is more than half a century of a single aircraft family shaping routes, cargo networks, and cultural imagination. Fact 4. Boeing built 1,574 747s in total. And if you let that number soften, it becomes a quiet picture. 1,574 separate lives in the sky. Now here's a design choice that shaped everything. Fact 5. The 747 was designed with a raised cockpit and partial upper deck, so the nose could, in principle, be adapted for freighter use. That famous hump wasn't only aesthetics. It was a door the aircraft kept open to its future. Fact 6. The 747 is a wide-body, long-range, four-engine jet airliner. And four engines mattered, especially in the early decades. Long flights, oceans, redundancy, confidence. Fact 7. The 747 typically seated around 366 passengers in a common 3-class configuration. Varies by airline and era. The point wasn't one exact number. The point was scale. Fact 8. The 747 became the first aircraft commonly called a jumbo jet, a nickname that carried a whole era inside it. Fact 9. Pan Am's early vision was to reduce seat costs by operating a jet far larger than the 707 generation. Sometimes the future begins as economics and ends as mythology. Fact 10. The 747's first rollout occurred in 1968 at Boeing's Everett facility, built at huge scale for the program, a building made to build something that didn't exist yet. Now let's drift into the idea of flight testing. Fact 11. The 747's flight test program involved extensive hours and multiple test aircraft before certification. Fact 12. The 747 was certified for commercial service at the end of 1969. FAA certification documented in historical sources. And then the world received it. Now, the 747 did something psychological. Fact 13. The 747's capacity helped reshape long-haul travel by making high-volume intercontinental routes more viable. Fact 14. The 747 became a cultural symbol of the golden age of aviation, celebrated for its size and distinctive silhouette. It wasn't just transportation. It became an image of distance becoming normal. Now we step into a few enduring technical truths. Fact 15. The 747's wing sweep and high subsonic cruise profile are core to the type's long-range jet performance, the classic jet. Airliner sweet spot. Fact 16. Early 747 variants used engines such as the Pratt & Whitney JT9D, with later engine families including GE CF6 and Rolls-Royce RB211 on certain variants. Now, the Queen begins to develop branches. Fact 17. The 747 family includes multiple major variants across passenger and freighter roles, and some of those branches are famous enough to have their own legends. Fact 18. The 747 became a strong platform for cargo operations over time, especially as passenger use declined in many markets. But we're not rushing ahead yet. We're still in the beginning, where the 747 is learning to be itself. Fact 19. The 747's upper deck and cockpit placement helped define its instantly recognizable hump profile. Fact 20. The 747 scale made it suitable for special missions beyond airlines, including government and research roles later on. Now, a gentle pause. Because if you're listening for sleep, the mind doesn't want a flood of numbers. It wants rhythm, so we'll keep floating, one quiet fact at a time. Fact 21. The 747 was built through multiple global airline eras: deregulation, hub-and-spoke expansion, globalization, and then the modern twin-engine efficiency shift. Fact 22. Over decades, the 747's passenger role gradually reduced in many fleets due to newer, more fuel-efficient wide bodies, and yet, it remained. Fact 23. Even as passenger fleets retired it, the 747 remained highly valued in cargo service because of its capabilities and economics for freight. Now we approach the definitive image era. Fact 24. The 747-400 is one of the most widely recognized and influential late classic passenger variants. But the 400 belongs to Part 2. For now, we simply lay the runway for it. Fact 25. The 747 program's longevity is part of its significance. Few commercial aircraft families run in production for so many decades. Fact 26. The 747's identity is tied to its capacity and presence. It changed what big meant in commercial aviation. Fact 27. The 747's role expanded beyond passengers into global logistics, helping power modern freight networks. Now we close Part 1 with a soft hinge. The aircraft becomes a family. Fact 28. Over its life, the 747 evolved through major design updates: avionics, engines, structural refinements, and efficiency improvements. Fact 29. The 747 became a long-term flagship aircraft for many airlines, symbolizing prestige on major routes. Fact 30. The 747's Queen of the Skies nickname reflects its outsized cultural footprint. Fact 31. The 747's story includes not only airlines, but also special derivatives and highly modified versions. Fact 32. Its final decades were increasingly freight-centered, with the last aircraft delivered as a freighter. Fact 33. Boeing formally celebrated the final 747 as an iconic wide-body with a distinctive hump, marking the program's significance. Fact 34. The story of the 747 is ultimately a story of scale meeting adaptability, an aircraft designed for one era that kept finding work in the next. And now, the runway lights shift. Take a slow breath in and out, because Part 2 is where the 747 begins to branch, like a river splitting into channels. The 747-400 era. Fact 35. The 747-400's maiden flight occurred on April 29, 1988. Fact 36. The 747-400 entered service with Northwest Airlines on February 9, 1989. Fact 37. The 747-400 introduced a two-crew glass cockpit, removing the flight engineer position from typical operations. There's something calming about that evolution. Technology reducing workload, streamlining rhythm. Fact 38. The 747-400 featured winglets, contributing to improved aerodynamic efficiency. Picture those winglets at night, like small upright fins holding the sky in place. The 747's ongoing identity shift. Fact 39. Over time, the 747 became increasingly important as a cargo platform. especially as newer twin-engine wide bodies changed passenger economics. Fact 40. The 747's cultural role continued even as airlines retired it. Its silhouette stayed iconic in public memory. Now we pivot into the modern, special cargo story, the Dreamlifter. The Dreamlifter, the 747 that carried other airplanes. Fact 41. The Dreamlifter is officially the Boeing 747-400 Large Cargo Freighter, LCF. Fact 42. The Dreamlifter's first flight occurred on September 9, 2006, as Boeing documented. Fact 43. Boeing states the Dreamlifter was created to transport major 787 components across the global supply chain. Fact 44. The Dreamlifter fleet consists of 4 converted aircraft. A tiny fleet, doing an enormous job. Now, we drift into the final generation, the 747-8. The 747-8 era begins. Fact 45. The 747-8 is the largest major evolution of the 747 family. Fact 46. The final 747 delivered was a 747-8 freighter, showing the late program's freight focus. Now, a quiet shift. The last 747 wasn't a passenger aircraft. It was built for the night work of logistics, for goods in time zones and warehouses lit like runways. The last delivery as a landmark. Fact 47. Boeing publicly described the final aircraft as the 1,574th 747 manufactured. Fact 48. Boeing's final 747 delivery celebration occurred in Everett, acknowledging thousands of workers and decades of production. Now, we deepen the theme, why 4 engines fell out of favor in passenger economics. Fact 49. Major coverage notes that newer twin-engine wide-bodies offered better fuel efficiency and operating economics, contributing to the 747's passenger decline. Fact 50. By the late 2010s and early 2020s, the 747's strongest remaining niche was largely cargo. Now we let Part 2 end with a gentle realization. Fact 51. The 747's story is not a simple rise and fall. It's an evolution from flagship passenger luxury into heavy-duty global freight work. And the air grows quieter. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let the facts become like distant lights on a dark coastline, visible, but not demanding. The official ending. Fact 68. Boeing delivered the final 747 on January 31, 2023. Fact 69. The final 747 was delivered to Atlas Air. Fact 70. Boeing and Atlas Air marked the final delivery as the end of 55 years of 747 production. Now, imagine that moment, a hangar full of people and an aircraft that is both machine and memory. Fact 71. AP described the final 747 as the 1,574th built, delivered during a commemorative event attended by thousands. Fact 72. Wired framed the last 747 as the end of an icon that transformed global air travel, while also noting its modern economic obsolescence in passenger service. A gentle zoom out, what the 747 did to the world. Fact 73. The 747 helped connect international city pairs and contributed to a broader expansion of global travel access over decades. Fact 74. The 747 became a symbol of wide-body travel at scale, an aircraft many people associate with long-haul even today. Now, a quieter idea. Fact 75. The 747's design proved unusually adaptable across decades and roles, which helped extend its relevance beyond its original era. The Dreamlifter as proof of late-era usefulness. Fact 76. Boeing's own release confirms the Dreamlifter as a 747-400 derivative used to carry major 787 structures, emphasizing the 747 as industrial logistics infrastructure. Fact 77. Boeing publicly highlighted the final 747's identity as a freighter, reinforcing freight as the late program's centerpiece. The 747-400's legacy as the 747 most people remember. Fact 78. The 747-400's documented milestones include rollout, first flight, certification, and entry into service in 1988 and 1989. Fact 79. The 747-400's 2-crew cockpit and updated systems represented a major operational modernization. The first era's anchored facts, revisited as Closure Fact 80. The 747's first flight date, Feb 9, 1969, remains a defining benchmark in aviation history. Fact 81. The 747's entry into service with Pan Am on Jan 22, 1970, is a widely documented launch milestone. Why people still feel emotional about it. Fact 82. Major coverage describes the 747 as iconic, emphasizing its emotional and cultural resonance even after production ended. Fact 83. The 747's hump and mass made it an immediately recognizable aircraft worldwide. Fact 84. The 747 story is often told as both engineering triumph and economic turning point, a legend shaped by its era. The final fact: glide path, finishing the count to 100. Now we finish the list gently, like the last minutes of descent, when the cabin lights dim and the world feels far away. Fact 85. The 747 program's end in 2023 marks one of the most significant end-of-production moments for a major wide-body airliner. Fact 86. The last aircraft being a freighter highlights how cargo became the 747's enduring stronghold. Fact 87. Boeing's own statement confirms the final delivery celebration and the exact 1,574th framing. Fact 88. Atlas Air's release confirms it took delivery of Boeing's final produced 747 and ties it to long-term cargo operation plans. Fact 89. AP notes the 747 served in many roles beyond passengers, including cargo and unique missions, reinforcing its versatility. Fact 90. Wired emphasizes modern aircraft efficiency as a major reason for passenger retirements, showing how technology reshapes fleets. Fact 91. The 747 remained in service after production ended, especially in cargo, meaning end of production is not end of flight. Fact 92. The 747's multi-decade production run demonstrates unusual longevity for a flagship commercial aircraft family. Fact 93. The 747's impact on route networks and travel accessibility is repeatedly highlighted in major coverage of its retirement. Fact 94. The 747 remains one of the most recognizable aircraft ever built, used as a visual shorthand for international travel. Fact 95. The 747 story includes the rise of megahubs and the changing economics of long-haul aviation. Fact 96. The 747's engineering decisions, including the raised cockpit, enabled its lasting usefulness across cargo configurations and derivative roles. Fact 97. The Boeing Everett site became inseparable from the 747 story, with Boeing itself highlighting the factory and its people in the final celebration. Fact 98. The final 747 delivery became a public aviation milestone reported by major outlets, confirming its place in global industrial history. Fact 99. The 747's legacy is inseparable from the feeling of scale, how it made the world feel both larger through capability and smaller through connection. Fact 100. The Boeing 747's defining truth is adaptability at enormous scale, a machine that kept finding new work, new meaning, and new sky, until the line finally went quiet. And now, there's nothing you need to do with any of this. You don't need to hold the dates. You don't need to hold the numbers. Just imagine a 747 at night, parked under slow white floodlights, its great wings resting, its windows dark, its giant body calm and still, a quiet city of metal waiting, and in your mind, imagine it rolling, slowly, toward a runway lit like a necklace. Imagine the gentle push of thrust, the steady acceleration, the moment the nose rises, and the world drops away, not in panic, but in calm inevitability. And now, we let the facts soften. We let the numbers drift into the background like distant runway lights seen through a thin veil of night mist. Because the Boeing 747 is not only something you understand with your mind, it's something you feel, a presence, a shape that carries its own gravity, even when it's standing still. so allow your breathing to slow, as if the cabin lights have dimmed and the world outside the window has become a calm black ocean of quiet, in and out. Imagine you're walking through an airport at night, not the busy airport of midday, but the after-hours airport, when announcements are rare, when footsteps feel softer on polished floors, and the air itself seems to move more slowly, as if it's also ready to sleep. Somewhere beyond the glass, you can see it, a 747. Not in a hurry, not demanding anything, just waiting the way mountains wait. A giant body, patient and still, with a fuselage that looks almost impossibly long, and wings that stretch outward like a calm, confident gesture. The queen of the skies. And there's something soothing about a machine that large being at rest, because it tells your nervous system a story. If something that powerful can be calm, then you can be calm too. If something that massive can be steady, then you can be steady too. Let your shoulders sink a little more. Let your jaw unclench. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. And now, gently, we'll drift into the majesty of what the 747 is, and where it still quietly goes. The majesty of the shape. The 747 has a silhouette that feels like a promise. The hump near the front, that raised upper deck, it gives the aircraft a kind of regal posture. Not sharp, not aggressive, more like a calm forehead lifted toward the horizon. And when you look at it from the side, it feels almost like a creature from a gentler era of aviation, when planes were allowed to look like dreams. You can imagine the immense engineering hidden inside it, the layered structure built to carry weight across long distances, the wings designed not only to hold it up, but to hold it up smoothly, the landing gear beneath, like a careful arrangement of strength and patience, ready to take the entire story of the flight and set it back down on Earth. And yet, for all that power, the 747 has always been known for something else too, a certain grace, because it doesn't look like it's fighting the air. It looks like it belongs there. Now, imagine you're seated inside, maybe by a window, and the cabin has that late-night hush, the gentle clink of a cup somewhere far away, a soft rustle of a blanket, a quiet engine tone that becomes almost like a lullaby. Not loud, just constant, steady, reassuring. The kind of sound your brain can ride like a slow train, in and out. Where the 747 still flies in passenger service. Now we step into a calming truth of modern aviation. The 747 is rarer for passengers now than it once was. Many airlines have retired it, because modern twin-engine wide-bodies are often more efficient to operate on many routes. But rarer doesn't mean gone, and that's part of what makes it so special today. Catching a passenger 747 in the sky now can feel like seeing a comet, a beautiful survivor of a grander scale. One of the most notable passenger operators still flying the 747 in recent schedules has been Lufthansa, particularly with the 747-8 based in Frankfurt. And Lufthansa's 747 routes often connect Frankfurt to major long-haul cities where demand stays strong and the aircraft's capacity still makes sense, especially at peak times. Commonly published routes where the Lufthansa 747-8 is frequently seen include places like New York, Newark, Chicago, O'Hare, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami, Washington, Dulles, Mexico City, São Paulo, Buenos Aires, Johannesburg, Tokyo, Haneda, and sometimes other long-haul destinations depending on season and fleet planning. And we'll say this softly, so it doesn't wake the brain up. Aircraft assignments can change, and airlines swap types, so these are often routes, not a guaranteed promise on any specific day. Now, just imagine each of those destinations as a gentle postcard. Frankfurt at night, a field of blue taxiway lights like scattered stars. Then, the long roll and the quiet lift into darkness. New York, the glittering edges of the city, and the sense of arriving somewhere that never truly sleeps. Los Angeles. Warm lights sprawled like constellations on land. Tokyo. A clean, calm order to the night, even when the city is immense. São Paulo. Deep summer air and the feeling of crossing hemispheres. Johannesburg. The high plateau. The sense of wide-open distance beyond the runway. Each road is not just geography, it's rhythm. A long inhale of departure, a steady cruise, and a soft exhale of arrival. And that rhythm is something your body understands. So let it copy the rhythm now. In and out. Korean Air and the rare modern passenger 747. Another passenger operator that has been known to fly the 747-8 in more limited, changeable deployments is Korean Air, where schedules can place the 747-8 on certain long-haul or special rotations at different times. Reports in 2025 noted the 747-8 appearing on routes such as Seoul-Incheon to London, Heathrow during a defined seasonal window, and also limited time usage to places like Kuala Lumpur in specific periods. But again, it changes, and there is something soothing about that, like a rare train that doesn't run every hour, only sometimes. So when you hear it in the distance, it feels like a special kind of night. The 747's other sky, cargo quietly everywhere. Now we drift into the other life of the 747. Because for many 747s still flying, the destinations aren't passenger cities in the usual sense. They are cargo arteries, the places where the world's goods move in the dark, where logistics becomes almost invisible, but the aircraft doing it is anything but invisible. Cargo 747s often operate on constantly changing routes, but they frequently move through major freight hubs, places that function like global heart chambers. Common 747 cargo landmarks people associate with 747 freight traffic include hubs like Anchorage, a frequent trans-Pacific cargo stop and sorting point, Leipzig, Halle, a major European cargo hub, Hong Kong, one of the world's big air cargo centers, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, a major U.S. cargo hub and modern networks, plus many other large freight airports depending on contracts and demand. And if you imagine the cargo world at night, it's strangely peaceful. Warehouses glowing softly, containers moving like slow, quiet choreography, forklifts humming, crew steps echoing lightly, a ramp agent's reflective vest catching light like a small firefly. Then the 747 sits there like a sleeping giant, mouth closed, waiting. And somewhere inside it, not people, but packages, medicine, tools, parts, letters, machines, sometimes relief supplies, the quiet things that keep the modern world functioning. There's something almost comforting about that role, because it's not glamorous in the way people imagine aviation glamour. It's dependable. It's the night shift, and the 747, in its later years, became a master of the night shift, especially since the final produced 747 was delivered as a freighter, reflecting how central cargo had become to the type's late era. You can feel that in the atmosphere around a cargo 747 at 2 a.m. It doesn't feel like show, it feels like purpose. A gentle tour through the most 747 destinations. Now, let's do something that guides you deeper into sleep. We'll take a slow tour through the kinds of destinations that the 747, especially in Lufthansa's passenger service, has often touched in recent published route lists, while letting each place become an image that softens your mind. You don't need to hold on to the names, just let them become scenes. Frankfurt. You begin in Frankfurt. It's late. The terminal is calmer now. The gates hum with quiet electricity. A few travelers walk like ghosts with rolling suitcases, and beyond the glass, there it is, that hump, that long body, that quiet. Confidence. You board, you sit, you settle. Your nervous system understands. You are carried. Newark, New York, then the Atlantic. The seatbelt sign fades. Cabin lights soften, and the 747 becomes a floating world of its own. Far below, the ocean is black and endless. Then, the first suggestion of coastline, and New York appears in the distance like a galaxy placed on the ground. Not sharp, not loud, just glowing. Chicago, or maybe Chicago. A winter city, a city of grids and lights, a place where the air can feel crisp and clean on arrival. The 747 descends through thin cloud layers, and the runway is a bright line, like a safe sentence you can read even while sleepy. Los Angeles or Los Angeles. Warm, soft night air, a sea of lights, highways like moving veins, but you're above it all. Safe, separate, carried, San Francisco. Or San Francisco, a city by water, fog sometimes drifting like a blanket, and the feeling of arriving somewhere that smells faintly of ocean even in the terminal air. Miami or Miami. Heat stored in the ground from the day, a tropical hush, palm silhouettes, a softer kind of night. Mexico City or Mexico City. High altitude air. A sense of arriving somewhere immense and alive, but from inside the cabin it's all softened, filtered through glass, through distance, through calm. São Paulo, Buenos Aires, or São Paulo, or Buenos Aires. A crossing into another rhythm of hemisphere, a feeling of the planet turning beneath you, a feeling of time zones becoming gentle, not stressful. Because when you're inside the 747's steady cruise, time stops being a problem and becomes a blanket. Johannesburg or Johannesburg. Big sky, dry air, the high plateau. A runway that feels like a quiet ribbon laid out beneath you. Tokyo Haneda or Tokyo Haneda. A place where the city's order meets the ocean's edge. Night lights reflected on water. A calm, efficient arrival. And through it, all, the 747 carries the same feeling, that you are inside something larger than your worries, that your mind can rest because the aircraft's whole existence is about carrying weight smoothly, so let it carry yours, in and out. The 747 is a sleep symbol. Now we go deeper, because sometimes your brain doesn't just need information, it needs symbolism. And the 747 is a powerful sleep symbol. It is big enough to hold your day, steady enough to hold your nervous system, old enough to feel familiar, and strong enough to feel safe. Imagine the 747 at cruise altitude now, the cabin dark, most people asleep. Somewhere, a flight attendant moves quietly like a careful shadow. Outside the window, there is nothing but stars and the faint curve of Earth. And the engines, not loud, just a constant velvet sound, a sound that says, everything is working, everything is normal, everything is under control. Let that sound become your lullaby. Let the steadiness become your permission to let go. And if thoughts try to return, you can imagine placing each thought into a cargo container, closing the door gently, and watching the 747 carry it away into the night. No struggle, no force, just release. A soft, sleep-forward closing loop. Now, we begin a slow descent towards sleep. Not a descent of urgency, but the gentle kind. The kind where you barely notice you're descending until the lights of a city appear beneath the clouds. Your eyelids can become heavier now. Your breathing can become softer. And we return one last time to that image of the 747. Majestic, quiet, immensely capable, and strangely soothing. A plane that changed the world. And now, in this moment, it can simply change your night. Imagine it landing somewhere far away. Frankfurt, Tokyo, New York, São Paulo. Or maybe a cargo ramp in the quiet hours where the only sound is distant machinery and wind. The wheels touch down, a gentle firmness. A steady roll, reverse thrust like a deep, soft exhale, and then taxi lights, slow turns, a calm return to stillness. And as the 747 comes to rest, your mind can come to rest too. Your body can become heavy, Your shoulders can melt downward. Your thoughts can thin out like clouds dissolving at dawn. Nothing more is required of you. You are safe. You are carried. You are allowed to sleep. And if you like these night flight stories, please come back again for more. Good night.